Okay, so I want to talk with you today about the Carolina Core RAMMPStack, and that is a open source developer community orchestration tools for nonprofits, governments, and businesses. All right, so the dream for Code for Greensboro is a place for it to become the place where people who want to transform the local community meet and exchange ideas. And I think another way of seeing people who want to transform the local community is to say, where entrepreneurs, community advocates, and technologists who want to transform the local community meet and exchange ideas. And I think the value that Code for Greensboro can have is teaching a single stack for building business, community, and government applications to improve the community. And I believe every community needs to foster its own local tech ecosystem. If your community wants respect for data privacy, if your community wants easy access to nonprofit and governmental services, if your community wants community investment and fair economic development, then your community needs to foster its own local tech ecosystem. And you should make a RAMMPStack the heart of that ecosystem. So by RAMMPStack, what I mean is a standardized framework the community can support, and that's doing a lot of lifting here, for providing accessibility to web technologies. Another way of saying that, because I like to reword these, is a way to learn to build really inexpensive micro apps for businesses, governments, and nonprofits. And so we get back to this idea of the Carolina Core RAMMPStack, and that is every application needs some reactivity, some way to have a user interface. It needs some way to integrate with other activities. It needs to be able to use APIs, monorepos for developer tools. This is to make the onboarding of new developers and people new to software creation, to make their lives easier. And so those that have more experience in software creation should be focused on ways in which we can add developer tools to make it easier for those that are coming after us. And micro apps. We need to create the standardized building block so that people start creating software like you would create something from Legos. And the standard building block should be the micro app. And finally, the P in this RAMMPStack is for protocols. We need standard documentation. We need to make it simple to follow along with what we've created so far so that other people can do it and other people can maintain it. Because it does no good if someone creates this really fantastic app and no one else can maintain it. People just won't use it. So documentation is a really important thing. Okay. So the premise here is that building your initial prototype on a RAMMPStack will massively drive down the cost of developing software. And that is for anyone. Whether or not it's an organization, whether or not it's a group of people trying to do this on the weekend, at least build out the prototype on a RAMMPStack because there are a lot of benefits that come with that. And it really addresses a lot of the places where software development or a lot of the common mistakes that can cause your software development costs to rise dramatically. Because it addresses what I think are the three biggest barriers to cost, and it addresses them in this fashion. Like first, the entire stack is free and open source, so you're not paying any licensing fees, you're not paying me, you're not paying anyone else to build on a RAMMPStack. Second, it's built on web standards, HTML, JavaScript, CSS. These are the components that are on any modern device. Any device that has a browser can understand and can use these technologies. Third, RAMP stacks should be cloud native and cloud independent. So this is really a common application prototyping framework, is what your RAMP stack will become. And here's a key point here. Designed for any cloud, no vendor lock-in. You should be able to choose any serverless cloud vendor. The big ones, Google Cloud Platforms, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft's Azure, IBM Cloud, Linode, Netlify, Vercel, DigitalOcean. Having a lot of choices is key because that gives you freedom from vendor lock-in, freedom from price increases. And also, if cloud service providers are doing things that you do not approve of, it gives you the freedom to switch off to another provider as well. And going along with that, hand in hand, cloud compute is cheap. With the website I'm running, it's not making a lot of money here, but when we are up and running and we're using it to help enable the artist's business or the client's business, it is less than $5 a month for all of the cloud compute that we need. So, most of the applications you'll build, this should be your budget that you have in mind for cloud compute. The software, again, is free and open source. So in that budget that you're thinking about the cost per license should be $0. Because the main cost barriers in software development are staff training, the software design and architecture, and then the cost of modifying software that you already have up. So again, I think this is one of the things where a good RAMP stack addresses all of these barriers, because any potential solution has to address ways of tearing down these huge cost barriers so that everyone in the community has access to the technologies that they need. And so I think what we should be shooting for, our goal, should be a single local ecosystem that can be used by the local nonprofits, the local governments, the local businesses, and the local entrepreneurs. And that we should start teaching to that standardized stack and use APIs to integrate with any legacy systems that we need to. And again, that's the premise, is that just by building out the initial prototype on a RAMP stack, you will massively drive down the cost of software development, while increasing community involvement. So for local governments that want to have community involvement, build out a prototype. Build out a prototype on a RAMP stack and get input about what you're doing. That way, people in the community can look at that prototype and engage with it and say, wouldn't it be cool if we did something slightly different, or we changed this here? And they can really comment on the fundamentals of what they believe should be happening. And I believe that if we do this right, we'll create this local developer pool, this pool of developer, a local developer community, a pool of developers that are moving in between governments, nonprofits, corporate, and startup world, and that the benefits that we will get from that will be extraordinary. There's also a place here for where local universities and colleges can be to handle knowledge validation at critical points. So like they can create the certificate programs on cloud security and continuing education and best practices, because we really want to enable everyone in the community to have access to the technologies that are so affordable now. So again, I want to take a look at the Carolina Core, what I'm calling Carolina Core RAMMPStack. And really we have the first three, the RAM here, are really the technologies. That's the coding and the bit. And then the next two, that M and P, those are the methods. Those are how you apply the technologies in order to enable this for people in the community. And I think one of the core elements of the Carolina Core protocol is this three-role approach to making great software. I think about this as kind of like, this is the missing manual for how to encourage people to work together to build software. Because you really want these three roles to work together to build micro apps, to do it in 2-week builds. Like, it's really important that the projects that are developed under a Carolina Core can be done in 2 weeks. Because if it's not going to work, you want to know it's not going to work in 2 weeks. And the goal is not necessarily to push out software as much as the goal is really to build institutional knowledge. This knowledge that stays with the organization or inside the community of how to maintain your own software, maintain your own applications, and build from there. So the three roles of the Carolina Core protocol is the problem space expert. This is a non-technical role. It means that you don't have to be technical to be in as a problem space expert. It helps if you are, but this is your entry point. If you want to learn about creating software, probably the easiest place or the easiest entry point is to become a problem space expert on one of these teams that's looking to develop micro apps. And you'll learn a lot from being in this role and being around other people that are trying to build an application. The second role is your experienced design analyst. This is what I think of as a semi-technical role. They might not have experience in coding, but they have experience in how to set up logical arguments. This is also a role that a non-technical person can transfer into. It can be their beginning role, but the learning curve might be a little high, because this role will be learning to use things like HTML, they'll be learning a little bit of JavaScript, and they'll be learning CSS and things like that. It's really the place where you want a person that's transitioning from a completely non-technical background. It's that middle step between being the fully technical person on the team to being the person on the team that might not have previous technical experience. And then finally, the API integration engineer. This is the person that has to be technical from the start. They have to already know HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, because they're going to help the other people on their team become better at it. And again, these are roles and not job titles. So if you're thinking about, and I really encourage you, if you're thinking about applying this in your local organization, think of these as roles. So they are roles that are planning tools. They're there to help you ask the question, can your organization support and maintain software? If your organization doesn't have a technical person, if your organization doesn't have someone with the skill set or the inclination to learn some of these technical skills, then that's going to be a problem. And so you can start answering these questions before major investment into having your own software. And again, with these 2-week builds, you don't have to invest a lot. to try to see just what it might mean to create and own your own software. Another part of this as a planning tool is the career advancement. And what we're looking for is a way in which you can move from being completely non-technical as a problem space expert to moving into a semi-technical role to moving into a technical role in these three role teams. And the other thing about this methodology is that it implies a way of cross-training, how you cross-train your staff so that if a team member leaves, you don't have this breakdown of how do you support and maintain the software. And so it is a critical planning tool so that your software does not depend on just one person. That is not good for your organization. And creating software using these roles as planning tools will help you cross-train and help you create a team that can support this software even if one of the roles needs to be replaced later in the future. You don't want everything to come crashing down if one role, if a person transitions out of one role and you need to find someone to fill that role. All right. And again, the goal here is to build the institutional knowledge to support your organization's software. Every organization is going to need to be able to support and manage their own software. That's just what's coming in the future. And hopefully this serves as a framework for at the organization and community level. This is a framework to start moving some individuals from no technical skills to semi-technical to highly technical. And you're not going to move everybody. That's not the point. The point is that you move some percentage of people from the lower technical skill to the higher technical skill. And whatever percentage you increase, that's going to be better for your organization. That's going to be better for your community. And again, there's nothing that you have to buy in order to try to accomplish this. I think the appropriate way to think about this is that the current institutional knowledge that we all take for granted is that everybody in an organization knows how to use Excel or a spreadsheet. Everybody in the organization knows how to use email or Zoom. That there are multiple people on staff that can do employee training, at least for the frontline staff. And there's got to be at least one person in every organization that knows how to manage payroll and accounting. Well, I believe in the future that we're going to, future institutional knowledge will be that all staff will know how to use their own company's apps, because every company will need to manage their own software and create their own applications. There will be multiple staff at each organization that knows how to do technical training material, and at least one person at every organization that knows how to manage their cloud service providers. And I think that will be the future of institutional knowledge. That's just where we're going. Okay, so hopefully this serves as an overview of what's being planned here. And let's get started.